You begin your morning the way many do, with a bowl of fruit. It seems like the safest choice. Natural, wholesome, packed with vitamins. But within minutes of finishing, your knees feel heavy. Your fingers stiffen. A familiar ache begins to creep into your joints. And once again, you're left wondering why a healthy choice doesn't feel like healing. That's because not all fruits are helping you, and some may be slowly contributing to joint breakdown, especially as you age. Now, don't get me wrong. Fruit is not the enemy. But what matters is which fruit, how much, and how often, because the wrong kind, in the wrong amounts, can fuel silent inflammation that lingers deep in your knees, hips, fingers, and spine. Let's start with the culprits hiding in plain sight: high fructose fruits. Fruits like grapes, bananas, mangoes, and pineapple are undeniably sweet, delicious, and seemingly harmless. But they're also loaded with fructose, a fruit sugar that, when overconsumed, especially in older adults, can overwhelm the liver, trigger uric acid spikes, and activate inflammatory pathways in the body. Uric acid, you may recall, is most commonly associated with gout. But even in people without gout, elevated uric acid can lead to low-grade chronic inflammation in the joints. You might not feel it immediately, but day after day, meal after meal, it accumulates. Your knees don't swell overnight. Your fingers don't stiffen from one fruit bowl. But over time, your collagen weakens, your cartilage dries, and your body sends warning signs: creaks, aches, stiffness in the morning. Here's where we can draw wisdom from the past. In ancient Greek medicine, Hippocrates and his students were already studying the effects of diet on pain and inflammation. Interestingly, many of their diets included sour, fibrous fruits like pomegranates and figs, but rarely relied on overly sweet fruits in large quantities. Sweetness, they believed, was to be taken in moderation. More importantly, it had to be balanced with bitter, astringent, and fermented foods to maintain harmony in the body's systems. They may not have had microscopes or joint fluid assays, but they observed something we now confirm in the lab. Too much sugar, even from natural sources, can act like a toxin in aging bodies. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Your body's ability to tolerate sugar decreases with age. In your 20s or 30s, your gut lining is more resilient, your pancreas responds more robustly, and your microbiome bounces back quickly. But after 50, the picture changes. You have fewer digestive enzymes, slower motility, and often a weakened gut barrier. When you introduce a high fructose load into that environment, the result is a spike in gut permeability, what many call leaky gut. And what leaks out doesn't just stay in your belly, it travels. It enters the bloodstream, triggers immune responses, and yes, settles in your joints. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine eating a bowl of grapes. Innocent enough, but within an hour, fructose ferments rapidly in the lower gut. Gas forms. The gut lining becomes more permeable. Inflammatory molecules sneak into your bloodstream and quietly lodge in your knee tissue, triggering that ache you thought was just old age. It's not the fruit alone. It's the frequency, the volume, and your current gut state that determine whether fruit heals you or harms you. Here's a quirky but relevant fact. In early Chinese medicine, fruit was classified not by sugar content, but by energetic temperature. For example, mango and banana were considered cold and damp foods, meant to be consumed only in hot seasons or in small amounts. They were even avoided in those with joint pain, which was believed to stem from cold dampness in the bones. While the language is different, The outcomes are curiously aligned with what we now know about joint inflammation and sugar metabolism. You may be wondering, does that mean I can't eat fruit at all? Not at all. The goal here is awareness, not fear. In fact, some fruits are incredible allies, rich in antioxidants, low in sugar, high in fiber, but that's for later. Right now, the invitation is to observe, to reflect, to ask, is my daily fruit habit serving my healing or slowly eroding it? You feel the difference when you remove certain fruits for a week. The morning stiffness dulls. Your fingers don't snap and crack as they used to. You walk across the kitchen without that grinding sensation beneath your kneecaps. It's subtle, but it's real. And that's the gift of awareness. Not dramatic change overnight, but a quiet return to balance. So what's next? In the coming sections, we'll talk about what's going on beneath the surface, in your gut, your bloodstream, and your cartilage when these fruits are misused. And more importantly, we'll reveal what to eat instead to heal rather than harm. Because the solution isn't giving up sweetness, it's redefining it. Stay with me. What's coming will empower you with the kind of food wisdom most people never hear, and your joints will thank you for listening. Gut disruption and the wrong fruit fuel. You've likely heard the phrase, you are what you eat. But for older adults, it's more accurate to say, you are what your gut can absorb, regulate, and repair. And that's where fruit, yes, even the natural kind, can quietly unravel your strength from the inside out. Let's go deeper. Your gut is more than a digestion center. Collectively called your gut microbiome, which have the power to influence everything from mood to inflammation to collagen breakdown. Now, these microbes produce waste products like lipopolysaccharides, LPS, which are known to trigger systemic inflammation when they leak through the gut wall. This condition, increasingly common after 50, is known as increased intestinal permeability, or, as it's popularly called, leaky gut. You can't see it, you can't feel it directly, but over time, it shows up in your knees. Why? Because the collagen matrix in your joints is extremely sensitive to chronic, low-grade inflammation. It begins to degrade. The sponge-like cartilage that cushions each step begins to thin. And suddenly, what used to be a walk to the mailbox now feels like a climb up a hill. But it's not just about sugar content. Let's take a fruit like pineapple, which is praised for its enzyme bromelain, known to reduce inflammation. However, in ripe, overly sweet pineapple, the fructose load is high enough to outweigh the benefit if consumed in excess. Or consider bananas. Soft, convenient, potassium-rich, but when eaten alone, they spike blood sugar quickly and feed the very bacterial overgrowths that contribute to gas, bloating, and increased gut inflammation. This is especially true in stage 4 ripeness, when bananas have brown speckles and a syrupy texture. The fruit's resistant starches have broken down, leaving behind mostly sugar. Even grapes, often touted for their antioxidant resveratrol, are tiny sugar bombs when consumed by the handful, especially without fiber or fat to moderate the effect. You may not feel the consequences immediately, but your knees will. Now, let's step back and look at the historical lens. In ancient Ayurvedic tradition, fruits were eaten according to season, body type, and digestive fire called Agni. Fruit was never meant to be consumed cold, late at night, or combined with dairy or grains. These pairings were thought to disturb digestion, leading to what they called AMA, or toxic buildup. Modern translation: fermentation, bloating, and poor nutrient absorption. It's no coincidence that Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine both viewed the gut as the foundation of health. Inflammation, in their eyes, often stemmed from imbalances in digestion and food energy. Today, we call it dysbiosis or gut imbalance. But the effect is the same: pain where there should be motion, weakness where there once was strength. And this matters for your joints because your gut is responsible for regulating systemic inflammation. If the gut barrier is compromised and the microbiome is imbalanced, inflammatory cytokines increase. These cytokines travel through your blood and lodge in vulnerable areas, most often in joints already under pressure from wear and age. But here's the twist: it's not about cutting out all fruit. It's about feeding the right bacteria. And this is where fermented foods come into the picture. Unlike sweet fruits that rapidly ferment in your colon, causing gas and bloating, fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and plain yogurt arrive already fermented. They don't feed bad bacteria. They introduce new armies of beneficial ones. Let's go back in time again. In biblical times, fermentation wasn't just a method of preservation. It was a tool of blessing and restoration. Bread of affliction was often accompanied by vinegar-soaked herbs, and fermented wine was used in both sacred and healing rituals. These weren't just symbolic. They had real effects on the digestive tract. What we now know is that these foods, rich in lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, and other live cultures, can restore gut lining integrity, improve nutrient absorption, and down-regulate inflammatory pathways that directly affect joints. Think about this. If the gut is inflamed, joints will be inflamed. But if the gut begins to heal, the fire within begins to cool, and with it, the pressure in your knees. You may not feel dramatic change overnight, but 1 week without sweetened fruits, paired with a daily spoonful of sauerkraut or a cup of kefir, the difference begins quietly. Less morning stiffness, less popping in the knees, a little more confidence on the stairs. So here's the shift. Instead of fruit all day, you begin your morning with something fermented, maybe kefir blended with cinnamon and flaxseed. At lunch, you add a spoonful of kimchi. In the evening, you skip the grapes and opt for a few slices of apple with almond butter, a fruit lower in sugar and higher in fiber. The result? A calmer gut, a cooler immune system, joints that start cooperating again. Because the goal isn't to fear fruit. It's to understand your gut's relationship with it and choose what leads you back to strength. In our final section, we'll get practical. We'll look at which fruits to lean on, how to pair them for joint protection, and how to rebuild your gut so it becomes your greatest ally, not your hidden saboteur. Healing begins not with restriction, but with recognition and the courage to choose differently. Choosing healing over harm. What to eat instead. Now that you understand the hidden impact of certain fruits on your joints and your gut, it's time to move from what to avoid to what to embrace. Because healing isn't just about subtraction, it's about strategic addition. You don't need to live in fear of every bite. You need a blueprint. So let's begin by reshaping how you think about fruit. Not all fruit is harmful. In fact, when chosen wisely, the right fruits can soothe inflammation, fuel your gut bacteria, and even support collagen repair in the joints. Take blueberries, for example. These small, dark berries are rich in anthocyanins, which not only give them their deep color but also act as potent anti-inflammatory agents. They don't spike your blood sugar the way grapes or ripe bananas do. Instead, they deliver slow-release polyphenol that reduce oxidative stress and calm overactive immune signals that contribute to joint stiffness. Now imagine this. You start your day with a handful of blueberries, paired with plain Greek yogurt, rich in probiotics and protein. Right there, you've created a synergistic gut-healing breakfast. low sugar, high benefit, no crash. Or consider kiwis. Tart, refreshing, and packed with vitamin C, a key nutrient in collagen formation. Collagen isn't just for skin. It's the molecular glue that holds your joints together. And with age, your natural collagen production declines. So feeding your body the tools to rebuild it isn't vanity, it's wisdom. Then there's apples, especially the kind with the skin still on. Apples contain pectin, a fermentable fiber that feeds your beneficial gut bacteria and helps regulate bowel movements, reduce gut inflammation, and maintain a healthy lining. Apples are also lower in sugar than tropical fruits, making them a smart, sustainable choice. Here's the key pattern: fiber, antioxidants, and low glycemic impact. These are the pillars of joint-safe fruit choices. Let's list your joint-friendly fruits. Blueberries, strawberries, in moderation, raspberries, apples, with skin, kiwis, blackberries, pomegranate, small servings, avocados, yes. They're technically a fruit and loaded with healthy fats. And here's another tool for your healing arsenal: fermentation. You now know that fermented foods can restore balance to your gut, which in turn reduces the inflammatory messengers that travel to your joints. But what does that look like practically? It looks like adding a spoonful of sauerkraut to your lunch, drinking kefir as a mid-morning refresher, swapping sweetened yogurt for plain Greek yogurt with cinnamon, enjoying a small dish of kimchi alongside dinner, sipping on kombucha in moderation as a bubbly alternative to sugary drinks. And here's your mainstream historical reference. In Eastern European and Mediterranean cultures, fermented foods were not trends. They were necessities. Before refrigeration, fermentation preserved nutrients. But more importantly, it preserved health. Grandmothers didn't just serve pickles for flavor, they served them for digestion. Yogurt wasn't dessert, it was medicine. Today, those same traditions carry life-saving wisdom. So, how do you put this all together? You build your plate around balance. Pair a low-sugar fruit with a fat or protein, e.g., apple slices with almond butter. Begin your meal with fermented vegetables to prep your gut. Reduce or rotate out high-fructose tropical fruits, grapes, bananas, mangoes. Space your fruit intake instead of clustering it into one sugar surge. Choose fruit in its whole, fresh form, not dried or juiced. This isn't restriction, it's alignment. Your joints are not your enemies. They are messengers. When they ache, they are asking you to listen, not to silence them with pills, but to support them with food that calms the storm from within. And here's what you start noticing after a few weeks. Less stiffness in the morning. Fewer cracking sounds as you rise. A lighter feeling as you move throughout the day. Reduced bloating and gas. Clearer mental focus. It won't be flashy. It won't make headlines. But your body will whisper back, "Thank you. I can work with this." You no longer eat for quick comfort. You eat for quiet resilience. And that is the greatest shift of all. In the next piece, we'll dive even deeper into how your gut is connected to your memory, your mood, and your energy. You'll discover why fermented foods may not only soothe your knees, but revive your brain. Until then, keep listening to your body. Healing may be slower now, but it's still fully possible. You just have to begin again, one wise bite at a time.